Hello and welcome to the NBA Minutes to Win It podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11, and you and I got a nice little battle. Well, I guess you and I don't have this actual battle, but we got a little Twitter avatar bet on Ohio State and Notre Dame. So I'm looking forward to seeing Woody Hayes on your avatar here later on today.
It's going to be a nice week of just me staring at Lou Holtz. I think that's what it's going to be.
See, and I don't even mind it because I love Lou Holtz, and a lot of people hate him. As Mark May would be the ultimate evil thing to put on my my avatar as far as college football goes, but nobody actually likes that guy anyway, so I do want that. But either way, moving to NBA here, New Year's Day. Only a 5-game slate, obviously, because most normal people are watching football all day. But once you get the good games out of the way early in football, obviously we got some NBA tonight. So starting off at point guard, where we do have some injury news. Well, I guess it's not news yet. Potentials. Derrick Rose's status is uncertain for today. We've seen this story, unfortunately, so many times that I tend to think I lean on the side that he isn't going to play because they usually take it easy with him due to his injury history. So obviously, if he's out, you give a bump to Jimmy Butler. Aaron Brooks is a guy who will see more minutes, but I mean he's so scoring dependent, and there aren't other options at his price point, and he has been really good his last 2 games, 27 to 33 fantasy points. So if you need an ultimate punt, like if you have a J.J. Barea and Darren Williams ends up playing, maybe you could pivot to Aaron Brooks if Rose is out, but not a guy that I'll probably go out of my way to play, though.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think there's just too much value at other positions. Kind of not a night you need to even go deep at value anyway. But I'm all over Butler if Rose sits. He's averaged a 27% usage rate in the 3 games Rose has sat this season. So we know he really takes over the offense, and you can trust him for 40 fantasy points at the minimum, I guess you could say, when Rose is out.
Yeah, absolutely. Other injury concerns, of course, Aaron Williams. His status uncertain as well. Didn't play the last 4 games now, coming on 5. Obviously, he's getting up there in years. Hamstring injury kind of tends to linger. So, obviously, if he sits out, J.J. Barea once again makes a fine play against Miami, who is a good overall defensive team, but his individual matchup, not that tough of one. So, imagine he should be able to easily hit his value if that's the case. And then Elfrid Payton next up, and Jeremy Lin also. Both those guys questionable at this point, and Jeremy Lin, his benefactor is going to be Jeremy Lamb, and Elfrid Payton, I guess it's kind of a trickle-down effect. You get more for Oladipo, more for Vooch, more for probably Evan Fournier the most in the first unit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of always tricky with Orlando, but Shabazz Napier got, he got 17 minutes last game, but really, I mean, you can't really trust that backcourt with what Scott Skiles is doing for minutes. So I would just lean on guys like Tobias Harris and Vooch a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Peyton did play last game, but only 5 minutes and then got pulled. So that doesn't look good for his prospects for today. But then the tough decision today going to be kind of site dependent, I guess. You got John Wall, Kyle Lowry, Kemba Walker all up there at the top. Lowry and Walker both had big games their first matchup, but that game also went to overtime. So just keep that in mind. But John Wall has been incredibly consistent recently. Also played well in his first 2 games, against Orlando. So if you can afford him, John Wall is certainly your top option. But I think that Lowry and Walker are both fine plays. I think that Lowry is probably the guy I would rather in cash over Kemba, just because he does have a little bit higher of a floor. But I really don't mind either one. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think Wall's your top option, but you really can't go wrong tonight. I think actually all of them maybe end up in that kind of same line, I guess you could say, tonight. Maybe Wall being a little bit higher, but I don't think there'll be too much difference.
Yeah, I agree with you. Moving on to shooting guard, of course, we kind of mentioned Jimmy Butler and his status if Rose is out. Of course, Brad Beal's still out as well. That's really the only significant injury as far as shooting guards go today. So DeMar DeRozan continues to be really, really good, but his price is starting to creep up, coming off a 53-point game on FanDuel points in his last game, and at least 19 real points in each of his last 10. He's been very good, but at his current price point, 8,400 at FanDuel, I think he's still a great cash game play, but not a guy that has a whole lot of upside now that his price is up to that level.
Yeah, I mean, I can see, just because it's a smaller slate, if you want to pop them in GPPs as well. If you were to pay up at both shooting guard spots, I think that's a nice kind of contrarian move if you're going with him and Butler. But I kind of agree with you there. I think there are a couple lower options that has some decent upside too if you want to put them in tournaments.
Yeah, and one of those guys, like you mentioned, Evan Fournier, his minutes finally back up where they were earlier this season: 35, 32, 35, 36, 33, and 40 over his past 6 games. Scored at least 16 real points in all those games, and he's looked good. I mean, contributing across the board, not turning the ball over, getting big minutes. He's kind of the very definition of a perfect mid-range cash game play tonight.
Yeah, I definitely like him. And Washington's really struggled on defense, and he is back to playing big minutes, and he looked like he took on a bigger role with Peyton leaving the game the other night. So I'm all over him again.
Yeah, we mentioned Jeremy Lamb there as well. Another guy that could be an interesting play for cheap if you're trying to be a little bit different with Wesley Matthews. His 45, 36, 32, 26 in his last 4 games as far as minutes go. The 26, obviously, that blowout of the Warriors with Steph Curry out. So you imagine he's going to be in the mid-30s again, but he's going to be matched up with Dwayne Wade. So not a great matchup for him, but also, he's the younger player, not by a lot anymore. But he's a guy that if he's played mid-30s in minutes, I mean, he should be able to get you close to value there at that price.
Yeah, I definitely like him as a nice value play. He's been shooting the ball well, but really scoring reliant. So if he doesn't get you 20 real points, you could be struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. Outside of that, shooting guard options, if we do see Elfrid Payton sit, I guess you could play Oladipo in a tournament, but he's been so bad recently that that's a big pass for me.
Yeah, I mean it would be a pretty bold tournament move. But if Peyton does, I mean, I guess he's worth it. Only 5,500 on DK, so it's not a bad price for him. And he does have upside, but it's hard to trust him.
Yeah, that floor is really bad right now. Moving on to small forward options, of course, we've got Carmelo Anthony. He's played very well despite a couple times not playing huge minutes, 30, 35, 38 last 3. Double-doubles in 2 of those 3. So if you have the extra money and you're paying up, you're getting yourself a solid floor with Carmelo around 30 to 35 points. And the only other guy you think probably has at least similar floor, assuming that he plays and he should, is Nicholas Batum.
Yeah, definitely agree with there. I think Batum's the top option for me. Save a little bit of cash, you get that triple-double threat that he brings, and it's kind of a tougher matchup against Amari Carroll, but Batum's been really solid this season, and I mean, he's kind of one of the safer options at small forward tonight.
Yeah, and then we've got Chandler Parsons, who was a disappointment last time out, but he's still playing good minutes, 34, 36, 37, 31 in his last 4. And at 5,200 on FanDuel, he still makes her a fine option. Obviously, you can't read too much into one game. This is a guy that contributes across the board. I mean, he's not quite a triple-double threat, but he certainly has triple-double upside. So this is still a guy in the mid-range that you want to take advantage of while he's still cheap.
Yeah, definitely like him on FanDuel. I think DK it's a little different because you have Fournier there at the same price as well as Otto Porter for just $100 cheaper. So I think he's more of a play on FanDuel for me.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Tobias Harris, one more guy to consider here. He's mid-range price, probably more of a cash game option because he doesn't often have that big upside, but he's been consistent recently, right around 25 to 30 fantasy points. So if you got a little bit extra, don't feel good about Parsons, paying a little bit more for Tobias Harris isn't a bad way to go either.
Yeah, definitely.
Power forward options, there's just not a ton of them as far as expensive options at least. Obviously, Pau Gasol is a center on DraftKings, a power forward on FanDuel, but that power forward price on FanDuel, 8,700, is really steep. So, excuse me. I know there's some cheaper guys, Taj Gibson in particular, playing huge minutes, 37, 38, 33, 34, 33, the 5 games without Joakim Noah. And he's had between 22 and 31 fantasy points in each of those games on FanDuel. So at $5,000, he's once again going to probably be, outside of Ish Smith tonight, probably the most popular play.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I mean, Gibson's a pretty solid matchup against New York. They're just an average rebounding team, kind of average defensively. And him playing, upper 30s in minutes, I mean, that's huge for him, who kind of needs those minutes to reach that 25 fantasy point floor that he has. So I'm all over Gibson tonight.
Yeah. Another guy I know that you're high on, and it's hard not to be right now. I'm on board as well. Pairing him with his new best friend, Ish Smith, and that's Nerlens Noel. 39, 36, and 33 fantasy points in 27, 30, and 31 minutes last 3. Obviously, Jahlil Okafor back in the mix, but came off the bench. And Noel playing like the guy that we saw last year that's kind of filling up the stat sheet and has that big upside on a per minute basis. And he's not going to be a guy that's going to play 38, 40 minutes at any point, really. But if he's playing around 30 minutes at his price with the lack of other consistent options right now and the way that he's just gelling really well with Ish Smith in that pick and roll, you gotta be a big fan of Nerlens Noel tonight.
Definitely. I mean, because we usually don't see Noel as an offensive threat, but he scored 20, 18, 14 real points in the last 3 games. He's shooting 71% in the last 5, so it's pretty crazy for Noel. And obviously a matchup against the Lakers is something we're all over. And at his price and what he's been doing lately, I mean, he's going to be easily my second power forward next to Gibson.
Yeah, same here. You can consider a couple other guys. Dirk Nowitzki, of course. He's got a decent price. He's still playing 28 to 30 minutes most nights, with the only exception being Brooklyn and Chicago games. But either way, he's a safe bet to get you 20 to 25. He's got, I guess, 40-point upside at absolute best. So he's an okay cash game option if you're not quite a believer in the Noel-Ish Smith duo yet. But I'm with you, though. I'm going with Noel and Gibson for the most part, unless something crazy happens tonight.
Yeah.
Cody Zeller's another guy you can consider. He's now got 6 straight games of at least 21 fantasy points on FanDuel. So at $4,700, he's another option you can consider as an alternative to Taj Gibson if you're not a Taj Gibson fan or what you just want to be a little bit different. I think he's a similar option to Taj Gibson with just a few less minutes, but on a per minute basis, just I guess a little bit better of a play.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. And free Bobby Portis could be happening. He's played 26 minutes, 27 minutes in the last 2 games, put up 16 and 7 and 12 and 9, just 3,900 on DK. So if it is that time, I mean, you could definitely pop him in a tournament and kind of pay up other spots.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of value around it. You can throw him in there and do really whatever you want at most other positions. So if you want to get some guys like John Wall and Vooch, you might need to skip a couple places. Speaking of that, Nikola Vucevic at center position continues to play well. Struggled early in the last game, but still got to 20 real points for the 7th straight game. 33 fantasy points on FanDuel. Isn't an ideal scenario, but now facing a Washington team that isn't the defensive team that we would have liked them to be this year. I'm not going to say they're a bad defensive team necessarily, but certainly one that you can pick on, and this one has one of the higher totals on the night, a close spread. So once again, he finds himself in a pretty good spot.
Yep, definitely all over Gucci Mane there. And Washington has just been horrid against centers over the last 10 games. They've allowed the 3rd most fantasy points per game. And then it's been by a lot, too. So, I mean, they've been really abused by centers down low.
Yeah. On the opposite side of that game, Marcin Gortat's another guy who's been playing well. He's got 30 or more fantasy points in 3 straight games. He's playing big minutes again, which was really the only knock on him early in the season. But 40, 38, 37, 40, 30, 34, 36 minutes over his last 7. So locking him into those mid-30s. As long as Brad Beal's out, he's still the number 2 offensive weapon for the Wizards. So he's definitely a guy to consider if you're not going up to Gucci Mane.
Yeah, I mean, he's a whole 1,000 cheaper on DraftKings there, so it's a nice pivot down if you need that extra.
Other options at center, there's not a lot that really stands out. Of course, you got Jahlil Okafor, who's not playing a ton of minutes yet, just played 20 minutes off the bench last time. I think they're kind of easing him back in, so if you want to take a shot on him in a tournament in a good matchup, I guess so, but certainly not a guy I'd consider in cash. Zaza Pachulia, I know you've been on him a lot this season. He's been really good the last 3 games, 29, 36, and 24 minutes, 31, 33, and 33 fantasy points. And defensively, it's not a terrible matchup for him against Hassan Whiteside, but Hassan Whiteside is a much more athletic player. So while he's not a tremendous one-on-one defender, I'm a little bit hesitant on Zaza's old man body against the young Hassan Whiteside tonight. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I don't think a few of those shots drop. I think they end up in Whiteside's hand and then smack down to the ground.
Yeah, they end up hitting some poor lady in the face on courtside seats.
I just don't think he quite has that double-double upside tonight against Whiteside. But, I mean, with how he's been playing, he hasn't been playing bad. But I just don't think there's a need to go down to him at center tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So that's going to wrap things up for us here today for Ish Smith Day on Happy New Year. But it seems like it's always Ish Smith Day, but especially against the Lakers now. But either way, find us on Twitter at DF Cafe, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out all the rest of our content at dailyfantasycafe.com.